Oh, watercolors! Hi everyone, welcome back to my messy desk. So in my previous video, I unboxed the May Arts Next subscription box. And today I'm going to test out the supplies. If you have not seen the previous video, do check it out. The link will be in the description box below. Okay, so let's get to the drawing. Since the colors we got were blue and yellow, and they reminded me of the beach, like very bright and sunny colors, so that's what I went for. So here I'm just sketching out some outlines. Later on, I realized that I should actually have erased the outlines more before I started painting, because the pencil lines were kind of hard to erase after you completed the drawing. But well, I guess you live and learn. Besides the gouache, I'm also using my two watercolor sets, the Pablo Travel watercolor set as well as the Della and Ronnie Travel watercolor set. These are my two of my favorite sets. Well, they are the first few sets that I owned, and as you can see, the Pablo is not in its original tin. The original tin got all rusty, so I had to change a new one. I looked around the house a bit and found an empty coffee jar, and it was huge and perfect for using as a larger water container. So the first thing that I did was paint the sea. Blue is my favorite color and the cyan was just calling out to me, so I had to paint it first. I'm not sure what the like a proper order is, or more effective painting orders. I suppose I probably should have done like the sky first, but yeah, I just went with what I felt like doing. So here I mixed some of the yellow with the blue together, like a green turquoise kind of color. For a while I felt that I was going too yellowish, so I added more blue later on to kind of cover it up. You can also see that I'm using a plastic pipette to drip my water onto the paint. I really love doing that. I find that really effective. It does require a bit of control because you could drip like too many drops or too large a droplet of water onto the paint and end up having it too watered down. But otherwise, it's convenient. You know, if you have like paint on your brush already, if you dip that into the bucket of water, you're going to like dirty your whole container, or you have to like get another brush to pick up the water, and you have to use like a bigger brush. If not, you won't be able to pick up enough water. It's just a whole lot of hassle to me, so I just use a pipette to do it. If you have not tried using it, why not give it a go? I think it's really convenient, especially with watercolor, the dried watercolor pens, and you have to like drip water onto the pens to like activate it before you can actually use it. Yeah, some tips and tricks from a beginner. So here I'm coloring in the leaves. Actually, the dagger brush is pretty nice to work with in that you can turn it around to get to draw really thin lines, and you know, if you use it in the other angle you get really broad strokes. But I got tired of using it after a while. It just felt like restricting to have to hold it in that one single angle, so eventually I switched to my own like smaller brush. So I'm just a lot more used to tiny brushes because I like to have that level of control and detail. Also, I usually do like really small paintings, so yeah, you need a smaller brush to do smaller paintings. Painting the leaves was definitely the most tedious and lengthy part of this drawing, but you know, it's nice to get lost in something and enjoy the process. So I pretty much used this one color for most of the leaves. I did add a bit of yellow highlights as you can see here, and I also I mixed in a different green for just a tiny portion of the drawing. But yeah, I was very surprised that this olive or yellow green is so dynamic when it's diluted and versus when it's concentrated. It gives a really different color range, and I haven't used it much before this, but it's really nice color for foliage. So at this point I was satisfied with how the leaves look, and I decided to move on to do the tree trunks. It was also around this point of the drawing that I realized maybe I should have painted in the sky first, because now I have all these leaves sticking out, and yeah, it was going to be hard to do the sky later on, but it's too late. We'll see what we could do later. And I also did not test the colors after mixing them and went straight to drawing, and as you can see, one of the tree trunks was too dark. I tried to dilute it out with water, but it didn't help that much. There was just too much pigment on it. So yeah, I just went with it. I did look at some references to get an idea of how to frame the picture, but quite a bit of it was kind of from memory. Because I live in Singapore, I've been to the beach. I remember how the coconut trees and palm trees look like, and I just winged it from there. I added quite a bit of black to the brown to mix this dark brownish color that I could use as texture for the trees. And yeah, I just slowly worked my way through. Again, this also required quite a bit of patience and imagination, and I just got a little bored at times doing the same pattern for the tree bark. And yeah, I tried to create something different sometimes, but it doesn't always turn out well. But overall, in the end, I'm pretty pleased with the end result, so yeah, it all worked out. So my concern with getting an art subscription box, besides obviously whether it would actually even arrive, considering the whole COVID situation and international shipping and all, was that whether I would like the supplies. So the reason I picked the Art Snacks subscription box is that they send supplies from a variety of different media, and it's great that I can try out different things, but at the same time, if it's a media that I know that I either don't like or probably will have a hard time using, then I wouldn't get as much value out of it. There's definitely a conundrum there. I want to try something new, but at the same time I'm afraid of trying something new. And what if I don't like it? And I'm also equally afraid that I'll fall down new rabbit holes, as if I'm not in enough rabbit holes already. So yeah, but I do like surprises, and I've been itching to get a subscription box for a while. I'm not planning to subscribe for long term because I already have so much art supplies and not enough time to use them, but yeah. So I have a really bad habit of getting really close up to the paper when I'm doing detailed paintings or drawings. So you can see my head blobbing into the picture here and every now and then. And here I tried to do this little outline thing on the trunks, and after that I really hated it, so I stopped doing that. And then I decided to move on to do the sand and see how I could fix the tree trunks later on. Maybe try and wash off the pigment a little with the sand. So I went back to using the dagger brush for the sand. I mixed a couple of colors, some red, beige and a bit of yellow together to get the color I wanted. And yeah, it was fun to just dabble the colors on and create these textured effects. So the dagger version of the brush is supposed to be able to create a variety of cool effects like scrolls, waves and foliage So I thought, hey, sand, why not? And then here I found that the beach was a little plain looking, boring looking, so I thought, okay, maybe let's do like some kind of like footprints or like track marks in the sand. And in the end I actually really hated it. But you know, with art, there's kind of like no going back. So yeah, I tried to make it better later on by adding a little bit more color and softening out the effects a little. But yeah, it is what it is. It's probably my least liked part of the painting, but yeah, we live and learn. I added this little island at the back to make the whole painting a lot easier and the background less empty. I think I quite like the way it turned out. Now off to the finishing touches. So despite me having cleared a large area for, well, large in my opinion, area for doing the painting, it was still not enough, so I had to like put my pens onto the paper because there was just insufficient space. And here I struggled with the brush for a bit because I was getting this like weird black stuff over it. I'm not sure if it's like dust from having just left the painting out overnight or it came with the brush or something, but yeah, it wasn't that bad because I could brush it off at the end when the paint was dry. But here I just added in the sky. I used the cyan that came with the Art Snacks box. I realized at this point it's probably like I'm doing things the complete opposite of what others would do. We probably go with the sky, the background first, but I'm doing it at the very, very end. But yeah, I think it still turned out pretty decent overall. Like I just filled in the little gaps between the leaves. And because the watercolor, although it does run if you get water over it, but if you don't get water over it too much and paint over it too extensively, you can paint over it a little without having the colors come off. And now I'm just touching up the sand a little bit, adding a bit more color in the places where it seems really white, especially the gaps between the sand and the waves and the tree trunks where I was too afraid to go too close earlier. So at this point I realized that we have the sun, the beach, the waves, and what are we missing? Shadows! I must say that I really had no idea what I was doing here. Besides the footprints, I think the shadows were the part where I messed up the most in the entire painting. Maybe this was even worse than the footprints, I don't know. Like I tried my best, but it just looked really awkward and the proportions didn't seem right, and I had no idea whether like one shadow should be going on top of the tree trunk or not, and all that, and I realized that I wasn't actually counting the number of leaves when I painted the shadow, and I just started painting leaves rather than looking and trying to make it like a proper shadow. But yeah, felt that the tree trunk was also too thick, but oh well, I just left it as it was. I have no idea how to fix it. So I needed a white to do highlights, like an opaque white. So I dug around my room and finally found my bag of like individual tubes of paint, and surprise, they were actually gouache. I thought that they were watercolors all along, but turns out that I do have a bag of gouache paints lying around somewhere. And these are the Della and Roni gouache paints. It's called designer gouache, and this is the permanent white, and here I am just trying to do some waves hoping that this little spots of white would turn out to be wave-like looking things. And yeah, I just went along with it and tried my best. Never painted waves before, this is the first try. So ultimately I think it turned out pretty decent. I like it, and that's the most important thing, I guess. So here's the finished painting. I added in some clouds and touched it up a little, but overall I'm pretty happy with the result. It was a fun drawing process, and I like the supplies that I got in the May subscription box. Hopefully the June subscription box will come soon. I know it's almost August already, but well, that's just how things are. So that's it for this video. If you could like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, that would really help me a lot. Thanks, and see ya in the next video.